One of the reasons why I love to garden is because it enables me to feed my family for so much less money. But there's a cheap way to garden and a very expensive way to garden. And going and buying all of your plants from a local nursery can really add up. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can take one chive plant and divide it into many chive plants and pretty much stock your garden or your neighbor's garden for free. Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Kylene, and in a recent video we talked about chives and 8 reasons why they make an excellent survival crop. No, they don't have a lot of calories, but they are packed with nutrition and they have a lot of flavor that can really improve the taste of your stored dried goods. Well, sometimes in the survival garden, one of the things that we need to do is make sure that we can inexpensively propagate plants, and chives are one of the easiest plants to divide and plant and grow more. Most of the chives that you see in my garden actually came from a couple of original plants, and yet they grow really big, and then we can divide them and we can share them with neighbors. We can plant them in different areas, or like what I decided to do is to plant some in my front yard landscape. Chives are a beautiful plant, and so when you intersperse them in with some of your regular landscape, nobody really knows that what you're growing is food. So today I'm going to show you how easy it is to divide your chive plants and make a lot more. All right, so I'm going to transplant these chives. Normally I would be doing this in the fall, but it doesn't really matter overly much. The first thing I did was to chop it all down so it wasn't too tall. We don't want the roots to have to work too hard to be able to support the top and get that growth while they're established. So, and I'm just going to pull this up. I have some other plants in here I don't want to disturb, so I'm being a little bit more careful than I normally would. Okay, so then I've got this. Can you see when we look at this, it's so cool. All of these could actually be divided into one little clump, right, and replanted like this. See how it's individually, they're just a whole bunch of onion-looking bulbs with the roots, but I like to plant them as a clump. Now here is another one that's kind of gotten out of control. This one's fairly old, and so I want to make sure that I have plenty of space for this other stuff under here, so I'm going to harvest these. Now I'll take these all in. I will preserve the blossoms as well as the chives, so I'm just going to set them aside. Another thing that you can do with them is chives just make a great mulch. If you've got more than you can eat, just chop them up and lay them around, and that will work great. Now that I've got this all chopped down, I'm going to do the same thing. Now that I've got this all chopped down, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of tease it out of the ground a little bit. I'm kind of gentle, but it is very, very forgiving. And then once I've got this little clump, I'm going to divide it and transplant it. Let's go do that. Now that I've got this out of the ground, you can tell the soil was beautiful and healthy. That makes me really happy. But anyway, back to the chives. So the first thing that I would probably do is you could just separate off little clumps like this. And you don't want to be too mean, but it's okay to use some pretty good force. So these are all still together. Every like 3 or 4 years, you really should divide your chives. You'll have stronger, healthier, happier chives if you do that. So I'm just, and you, like I said, you don't have to do a whole bunch of that, or a whole bunch of them. You can just do 1 or 2, but I want these to be beautiful in this front yard. That's how we've got this one. And then this one was smaller, and so you can tell that it was healthier. See how the stalks or the leaves are much larger, and the bulbs at the bottom, this one doesn't have a big bulb on it, but usually the bulbs are a little bit larger, so it's healthier. These ended up getting so crowded in there, they just didn't have room to be as happy as what they could be. So that's why dividing your chives will produce happier, healthier chives. Now, I don't want to leave these exposed to the sun for very long at all, so I'm going to work kind of quickly to get these chives in the ground. But what I've done here, this is our little part of our front yard food forest. And in the back, I've planted some hardy kiwi berries that will grow over the top. And then those other little green plants that you see in there are Blue Horizon huckleberry, which is a ground cover. So the kiwi will go over this fence. The kind that we did, it's a red Arctic. It's beautiful. And so it should be quite showy. And then think about this. These chives will just be this beautiful purple that will grow and be actually pretty gorgeous. And yet they're edible. Okay, I got all those other plants planted and I wanted to show you this last one. I've just dug a hole. This soil is good soil. You may need to amend it if you've got bad soil because you've got to have healthy soil for these plants to grow. But I'm just going to put this right here in the hole. I want the root or the soil line to be right where it was before. And then I'm just going to put this all in. I always put compost on top of my raised beds once a year. The other thing I do is when I clip things, I actually chop and drop. So if I have extra of these that I'm not going to use, I would just cut them and put them right here and let them be kind of a mulch, and that returns that nutrients into the soil. So they're super easy to take care of. Now, right after you plant them, you should water them. And I would keep them wet. Okay, not super wet, because one of the things chives don't like is to be waterlogged. But I would keep the soil moist for at least a week or two before I just go back in my normal routine, because by then the roots should have recovered and they should be happy. And that is all there is. Now I've got these little guys planted in this bed. It cost me nothing but about 10-15 minutes of my time to put them in here. And you could put that, you could incorporate it into your regular landscape, and people would just think that you were like amazing. See how easy it was to divide those chive plants? They're super hardy. Just give them some water and they will take off. Now these will be okay next year. They'll blossom and they'll be okay. But the year after, they're going to be gorgeous and they will add beauty and life to my front yard landscape. And yet it's edible. Along that line, let's talk about edible landscape. What is your favorite crop to grow right in your front yard, interspersed with your regular landscape? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.